Teachers of Reddit, what generation did you like teaching most? 80s, 90s, 00s, why? Jesus, I've only taught in the 10s. How long do teachers live for? I'll be surprised to make it to next year. Lol. If you teach a full-length career's worth, you might end up teaching the children of former students. I had 2 teachers in high school that taught my parents when they were there. My girlfriend's mom is a middle school teacher and she mentioned that kids are way more compassionate today, but they drastically lack social skills. That makes sense. I tend to think that happens because the students spend so much time listening to people talking to their phone about their fears and insecurities but are accustomed to students volunteering that information. I think kids just have a much tougher time understanding how to appropriately socialize with people like teachers or others removed from their social circle. Each group of people is now so unique they've developed their own culture, memes, and way of talking to each other. So I'm guessing what she's observing is the literal panic and anxiety kids get when they realize that they're a total fish out of water with some people. As a kid myself, I definitely notice a lot of people are super comfortable and talk all the time in their friend group but are quiet/shy with other people, especially adults. My mom has been teaching for about 25 years. She says students haven't changed. Parents have. How old are her kids? Early elementary. Op has very good Reddit skills for being in elementary school. I knew someone was going to make that joke. It's not the kind of thing I usually catch, so seeing it felt like both a find and a solemn obligation. Ooh, elaborate, please. My wife is a teacher. Her school has wealthy parents and poor alike due to how district transfers work. I'm also in education but not a teacher, so I work with a lot of teachers too, plus my wife's friends are around me enough. This is a small subset of parents, but it's definitely the vocal minority that stands way the F out. The parents with money are the absolute goddamn worst. They think their children are the most special craps on the planet. They can do no wrong. And their failure of a dick kid has zero accountability for their actions. They blame the teachers for everything. Contact the principal and district to complain about the smallest of things. The list goes on and on. I get pissed typing it. I've read the emails my wife has shown me, and I've seen emails pop up on the computers I work on. I'm the exchange admin, and it's like a steady stream of abuse sometimes. Am a teacher in a wealthy majority white suburb? Everything this guy says is the honest-to-God gospel truth. This year in particular is the worst because there are zero consequences for any behavior and zero follow-through on any policies. The way I am treated on a daily basis by parents fills me with a sickening rage that I have no choice but to internalize. I thus go home and sob, binge eat comfort food, and lay in bed staring blankly at Reddit once dinner's over. I have lost my self-esteem, I have no confidence, and I am crippled by anxiety over when the next angry parent will show up in my inbox or worse, in my admins. I monitor everything I say because I've seen how it can be twisted into a contortion of lies and you become some bored housewife's target. If you aren't exaggerating, you need either to get your admin on your side and understand your situation or quit. It's not worth your health. Not original poster and not a teacher, but my friends are. According to them, and they're relaying the perspectives of older colleagues, parents today are more likely to perceive their children as little angels. If a student today gets a bad grade, the teacher will bear the brunt. In generations past, the student would be the one receiving extra help and/or discipline. Obviously, this doesn't apply to everyone, and maybe original poster meant something completely different, but that's what I've heard from those in the education system. My friend is a third-grade teacher and she says the same thing. First off, it's impossible to actually fail a student nowadays. You get a passing C no matter what. Even if the student doesn't turn in one assignment. And she said the parents are the worst part of the job. If for some reason the child is behind, misbehaving, etc., the parents assume it's the teacher's fault and go to higher-ups to get them in trouble. Absolutely agree. I am a school administrator and parents call to complain or demand to speak with the principal about the dumbest stuff. My child is upset because the teacher never calls on her. I want to speak with the principal. My child lost her bracelet at school. You guys have to go look for it. There was a fire drill and it was cold. My child said she couldn't get her jacket. I want to speak with the principal. I'm upset about this teacher's tone of voice. I want to speak with the principal. I wish I could remember some of the more ridiculous ones. Most of the time when I ask parents what happened in their conversation with teachers, they say they didn't even bother talking to them about it. I think it's good that parents are more skeptical about what happens in a teacher's classroom. When I was a kid, my parent had the opposite attitude, and I did have some teachers that were totally in the wrong. But it's gone too far the other way. Many of my parents have no sense of personal responsibility for themselves or instilling it in their children, and it is the worst part of the job. This will be buried, but I have the be-all end-all parent complaint. Parent called in to complain their daughter was being bullied on the bus. The secretary apologized and informed her that students should be sitting in seats with their siblings only due to COVID. The mother agreed that her daughter had been sitting with her brothers. The secretary asked who was picking on the daughter, and the mom informed her it was the girl's brothers. The secretary told her she would need to take care of the issue in their home, rolling eyes face. Absolutely effing ridiculous, and also something that would happen at my school. The bus used to take up so much of our time when it came to complaints and bullying. COVID has done wonders because now we went from 120 kids to like 25 actually using the bus. I can't offer what my favorite science teacher told us in regards to why he chose to keep teaching for so long. He was in his 70s and had been teaching since he was in his 20s. I'll quote him as best as I can remember: "The kids change, the clothes change, the attitudes change. The science changes. I lived through times when women couldn't learn science like men, and when people refused to teach people because of the color of their skin. The one thing that doesn't change is the hunger for knowledge. I get new children every year who I truly enjoy teaching. Some kids don't want to learn, but there are always the special few that find wonder in science. I continue teaching for those kids. The ones who find the wonder and joy behind science. There are more and more of you each year, and it truly fills me with joy." So I'm guessing his favorites were the kids in his last teaching year, 2008, when he died. In the case of our food tech teacher, she hated all children equally. My science teacher told me, when I went to university, I didn't attend the classes, I didn't do any of the homework, and I just showed up and passed the tests. When I wasn't at work or taking a test, I was at the bar having fun. Eventually I had to get my crap together because they made it where you couldn't pass the classes if you had poor attendance and low homework grades. You remind me of my younger self. I think you must have had the other science teacher. You are all equally worthless. I hate each and every one of you with a passion hotter than the stove you stand in front of. I only teach here to hope that one day you will slip up and cause a fire. I do not hate you because you are a girl. I do not hate you because you are a boy. I hate you because you are you. Now today we will be making pancakes. If you mess this up, I will shove my hand so far up your butt you will look like a Muppet. Food tech teacher. I only teach here to hope that one day you will slip up and cause a fire. I'm in stitches, just like the food tech teacher wants. I'm still a new teacher, but what I've really enjoyed so far is using slang around students. Saying yeet gets a completely different reaction from 10th graders, eye rolls, and 5th graders, glee, and I love either one. I teach middle school, and one of my favorite things is making references to be cringy. Even better is using references wrong. Example: "Great point, Jessica. That was a very yeet observation. This is the way." Does this apply to the misuse of dabs too? For example, for the last time, Carson, put your phone away right now. Swift action double dab. Lol, I do dabs incorrectly to mess with my kid all the time. Shizzle into a yeet dab, it's totes poggers for swags. Former teacher here: after you dab at the wrong time, walk into a door frame. It slays them. Oh, so y'all are doing that on purpose? It's some of the cheapest entertainment around. Wow. I always thought you guys were lame. It's not that you are lame, you all are just way bigger brain than we are. Aw kid, it is our source for daily entertainment. Now you know the secret. Embarrassing teenagers is extremely easy and quite entertaining. As a teenager, I agree. My favorite is later skateboarder. They hate that. It's funny to see teenagers think that their parents are clueless. I have a 13-year-old, and have no idea that we're effing with them. As they really still think, I believe the PS4s and Nintendos. I bought it and all those games, of course, I know what it is. But messing with them is hilarious. Absolutely. Or I love to play dumb. Just the other day I got back to class from an impromptu meeting and a girl says, "So you going to spill the tea?" I looked at her confused and explained I'm more of a coffee guy myself, but I don't see myself spilling any either way. The rolling laughter and mock assumptions of how clueless I am is an odd type of entertainment I can't describe. Or I also love music references, as I'm a bit of a music hobbyist of any genre. Students were talking about what their rap name would be. One guy said, "Lil Tito, like Lil Nas but I'm Tito." I just said, "Ah, Nas. Old school." Then started singing If I Ruled the World. They all looked at me as I was crazy. Like WTF. For me, that's the moment that I look for the ones that have a bit more rap history in their palette. No one seemed to get it. I think I'm just weird, but I think adults using current slang ironically is funny. M''S. Last will and tentacle. I have a question. Yeet, that's lit. So what's the question, fam? Strongly suggest doing it incorrectly on purpose, like right wow, yeet job. On the next 100%, paper or test, you grade. University professor here. When I started teaching in the early 00s, students still got even my most obscure Simpsons and 80s film references. By the late 00s, I had nothing left to reference. By the early 2010s my kid had reached adolescence, so I had new material, but it really wasn't mine, and the culture had splintered so much that my Rick and Morty references only hit about 30% of the class. Lately I just stopped trying, and became that old, out-of-touch professor. I lived long enough to become the villain. Edit. Thank you everyone so much for your words of encouragement and understanding. The response was overwhelming, and very welcome. You've made an old Gen Xer unironically feel feelings, and as those of you in my generation know, that's a genuine accomplishment. I will start making my references again, if only for that one student who gets them. Cheers and love, heart. I used to be with it, and then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what is it seems weird and scary to me. Web link. Are my references out of date? No, it's the children that are wrong. This is slowly becoming me. I'm an elder millennial, 83, professor for whom your culture splintering term rang a huge bell. Back in my day, everyone watched The Simpsons, and if you didn't, that's a paddle-in. Now, I try to stay remotely with it. Sometimes late at night I'll get a little high and put on some memes videos, trying, of course, not to wake the wife or kid, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to the fire hose of other people's lives that these kids are consuming. And if that all isn't bad enough, one recent student evaluation was simply super nice guy, excellent professor, outdated cultural references, but good dad jokes. You'd be like a cool super young dad if these students were actually your kids, though 38 with 20-year-old kids. I have realized that many teenagers of present don't understand how fast culture went in 20 years. I work with kids, and when we reference sending an email, this 15-year-old spat out, "Sending emails? Who does that? That's like so 90s, lol WTF? Who was sending emails in the 90s? People still used effing typewriters and that wispy thin airmail paper in the 1990s. Like email for the masses, and not the AOL, Yahoo/CoolChat crowd, just happened, but they think this technology is like a lot older than it really is. Like dude, we had records, cassette tapes, CDs, burned CDs, MP3s and streaming in 20 years. Sorry, most kids from the 80s didn't use 8 tracks, but we know what records are. We hit an acceleration moment in culture that is difficult for them to understand at times. I remember PCs going from floppy, to CDs, to DVDs, and I'm pretty sure that zip drives were a thing for a hot second. Never mind stuff like Laserdisc that existed for an even hotter second. And then of course USB sticks, which have stuck around and just slowly improved in size and speed over the years. And I was born in '88. Stuff doesn't stick around long. I remember when SSDs were new. Now we have SSDs that make those early things look like slowpokes. Hell, 3D TVs came and went in the past decade. VR is the new big thing that looks like it might stick around. Might. Hell, I remember cell phones. First, they were a brick. Then they shrunk somewhat. By high school, they were flip phones. By end of college, they were smartphones and everything was using touchscreens. Only then did things seem to finally calm down for a bit. Faster and thinner, but the general concept has remained the same so far. The past decade has been absurd. I remember PCs going from floppy, to CDs, to DVDs, and I'm pretty sure that zip drives were a thing for a hot second. The reference to zip drives reminded me of when iOmega stock was the GameStop of the 90s. I remember people gloating about how much money they were going to make on an iOmega stock until it dropped. Web link. It's the technology boom. Things accelerate exponentially. Works by Ray Kurzweil are really interesting to read if you're interested in that stuff. Makes me realize why me understanding Bueller? Bueller? Made my one teacher very happy. I went to high school starting in '08 around the time you're talking about. That was my last joke. Around 2014-2015 students stopped getting it, they would look around for Bueller and not laugh. I don't get this, though. I've had more than a few professors / even co-workers who are older than me make the Bueller reference and then be like, you guys are too young to get it, to a room full of people born 88 to 94, 1 second later before people have time to react. Like, hasn't pretty much everyone seen that movie? It came out almost 40 years ago lol. I'm 29, and have probably seen it 15 times starting when I was like 13. After a few times of people between the ages of 38 and 55 making the same joke, when it isn't necessarily accurate, it starts to come across as condescending. Yeah, it frequently played on broadcast TV throughout the 90s and 2000s. It came out before I was born, but like you, I have seen it multiple times because it was a movie that was on TV growing up. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.